Hi, everyone, and welcome to Awakening to Your True Self. I'm your host, Ramsey Chidi. I'm waiting for my co host to show up tonight, and it's going to be an interesting half an hour together. Our topic tonight is what if? What if there's nothing else other than this? But the reality is there is. And how do we know that it is a reality? And that's what we will be discussing tonight. Just a bit about myself. My name is Ramsey Chidi. I'm the host of Awaken to Your True Self. I'm a psychic medium. Uh, Sorry, somebody walked in into my view, so let me get her in, and I'll continue in a sec. Hey,
Hello. How are you?
Good. You?
Good, thanks.
I was just starting the introduction. I was talking about myself. I'm a psychic medium, a spiritual coach, and a healer. I use guided, intuitive, and angelic Reiki healing. And with me tonight, I'm not going to mention her name. She can introduce herself. Tanys, go right ahead.
Hi, I'm Tanys Coughlan, and I'm owner and operator of the Twillo Lifestyle Community. And I am a Reiki master, crystal master, Celtic shamanic high priestess, an oracle, and a channel.
Awesome.
So it's great to be here. Thank you for having me.
Well, thank you for joining. For a few seconds, although I started early, I go, oh my God, I'm going to be alone tonight.
Sorry about that. Had a bit of a technical issue coming in, so we're all set now, though, so it's all good.
It's all good. It's all good. So, as you know, our topic tonight is what if? What if it's not there? What if there's nothing after this? But we do know that there is.
Mm-hmm.
I thought maybe we can go into a discussion as to what's there based on our experiences, the work that we do. We're both intuitives, and we do chit chat with the other side, if you want to put it in this fashion. So, before we go into that, let's describe ourselves as human being, and not only as human, but everything on this planet, on this earth, and beyond. It's made up of energy.
Mm-hmm.
So the interaction between us goes into frequencies and different modularities, and I don't know what they're called, but I'll get your viewpoint on that.
Mm-hmm.
Well, you know, I'll just open it for you. I'll open the floor for you, and we'll take it from there. Sorry.
That's okay. No worries.
Don't take it the wrong way. I'm just like, it's the first time I do it with somebody else, so I'm trying to figure things out slowly.
Of course, you're doing great. Don't worry. So why don't I just tell you a little bit about how I see energy and how our bodies are energy and that type of thing first. That'll kind of open it up a little bit, and then we can go a little bit further from there.
Go ahead.
Okay, so we are on the earth. The earth vibrates. We all vibrate. So as we vibrate, we create an electromagnetic field around us. That electromagnetic field, we often refer to it as the aura. And so the aura actually has different layers. So we have the first layer, which is like the physical layer. It's called the etheric layer. And it's like right here. So if you actually take your hand and do this, you may actually feel almost a ripple effect as you go along the hand. If you shake it, it's kind of because it's like a jelly blueprint for our physical body. So that's what keeps our body in the shape that it's in, because it's vibrating all the time. So that's how you create the aura. So that's the physical one. Our mental emotional aura goes out about, if you have your hands outstretched out about that far. And then we have our spiritual aura, which goes out about 500 feet. So you can see that when we walk beside each other, when we're in each other's space, we're actually in each other's aura, right? And so there is that interchange of energy that happens as we go through. So that's pretty cool. How does our energy run through our body? So we've got a chakra system, A lot of people have heard of the chakra system. They're vortexes of energy, right? We have one on our crown, we have third eye, throat chakra, one just our heart chakra, of course, one just below the solar plexus, one around the navel, which is your sacral, and then you've got your root chakra at the bottom. I always sort of compare those. They kind of do the job of like our heart. So if you're looking at the circulatory system, your heart pumps the blood through the body. I find that the chakras work like that, and they pump the energy as it goes through the body. So in the circulatory system, we have veins. In the energy system, we have meridians. And so the chakras push the energy out through the meridians so that our whole body gets the energy that it needs in order to do that. So that's kind of the basics of the energy system.
Yeah, nutshell. So basically, when we walk into a room and we feel dense energy in there, if there's something that had happened before, basically what we're, from my understanding based on our discussion right now, is that it's a residue of what happened over there, the leftover of energies of the people that were in the room, and we walk in, we kind of like bump into it, or we feel it if we're more in tune with ourselves and with our surroundings.
Mm-hmm. So I would kind of look at that like, so even emotions carry an energy, right? So fear is the lowest vibration emotion, love and joy are the highest vibration emotions. So if you, for instance, you have a fight with somebody in a room, you can leave that denser emotion in that spot, right? Because it does get caught in our auras, but there's also some residual that you find left over. So that's what you're referring to, is that sort of denser energy. It's a lower vibration compared to some of the others. So, we vibrate between 63 and 78 megahertz. So if we actually walk through a lower vibration energy, it actually starts to lower our vibration, because there's actually a physics law that if you have a high vibration and a low vibration, and you put them together, the low vibration is going to raise. Mm. So that means the higher vibration is working to lift it up. And so that's kind of that pull, I think, that you're referring to, that we feel when we walk into that space. So I think, it's important for all of us to remember that the energy is actually infinite. And so we can actually transform energy pretty easily if we're conscious of it.
Yeah.
Right? It's that conscious piece. Let's be conscious and transform or transmute this energy.
This brings me to another question, is that when we do distant healing on people, on others, how do we go through space and time? Sorry, I'm moving my hand and it goes beyond.
That's good. Yeah.
How do we go beyond space and time to get to the other person across the globe and actually tune their energy into a higher vibration? Because that's what we tend to do, and remove any obstacles within their fields around them, basically their negative emotions and other stuff. So in your view, how do we get through that to get there? I'm working with somebody in Brazil. How do I get to Brazil? And I'm in North America and he's in down South America. We're like at least 8 hours by plane.
Mm-hmm. In the physical, in the 3D.
Yes.
So, we don't really do the 3D if we're doing distance, right? We're like astral traveling. So our consciousness is not bound to our physical. Our consciousness, and this is the astral travel thing, your consciousness can actually leave your body and go wherever you want it to. There is no time and space. It is a bit of an illusion in the other dimensions. In the third dimension, there is time and space, but when we go to the higher dimensional frequencies, we can move around a lot easier. And so, it's really a matter of just focusing on where we want to go and allowing the consciousness to go there. But we can function on different dimensional frequencies all at the same time. I know the guides gave me sort of a picture of it the other day, which was kind of cool. And that's if you think about everything as being or our consciousness as being like a glass office building. Okay. And the elevator shaft, which is open to all of those different dimensions, we can use that. So if most of our consciousness is at the ground floor, right? Our 3D is the ground floor. So we can focus most of our consciousness on the ground floor. And that's when we're really being physical. We're in our body. We're, being very 3D and focused on what's happening right here. There's still a fraction that some of that consciousness maybe still be on some of the other dimensional frequencies or the other floors of this office building, doing other stuff. And so when we astral travel, the analogy they gave me, it's just an analogy because it's really not mechanically correct, I don't think, if you can talk about mechanics and metaphysics. But really what happens is that you just take more of your consciousness from that ground floor and you pull it up to some of those other dimensions where there is no time and space. And so we just go there, and then we intend to be where we want to be. And we are there. Because our intention is everything. I mean, that's how we manifest, right? Is to intend. Because everything starts as a thought before it can be down in the physical to an action. And so that's kind of how it works. So we just kind of manifest ourselves somewhere else, which I know it sounds super simple, but it is.
Yes.
we aren't if you're not really aware that that's how things work, then it's pretty hard to I guess understand,
Yeah.
and it doesn't fit into the parameters of what we've all been taught all our lives. It's a programming.
Yeah, I get that, but maybe it's also a different visual. Is that when we do right now, we're doing a live video. We're all sitting in different places where our intention to be together in a certain time and space on the internet, and we got it all together there. So it's a kind of a visual, but it's not true. But that's how. Yeah.
Why isn't it true? If we intend it, it could be true.
We have it. Yes, you're absolutely right. You're absolutely right.
And so when you're talking about this kind of an analogy, we're kind of like, okay, we're creating that space in time, no time. And we're kind of all putting our consciousness in that space in time, no time. And so we are together in that way.
Absolutely, because it goes back to we're all energy and we all vibrate at a certain frequency, and we send that frequency to anywhere in the world, even if it is on the web.
That's right.
Also, our frequency goes somewhere, which opens up in the room where somebody is actually watching it, and it's there present with them at the same time.
That's right.
Interesting. Love that. Yeah. Love those analogies. At least it makes it easier for people to grasp it, because sometimes what, at least from my experience, is that I had a hard time understanding it, where I'm here and I'm there, and how do these things work, and what's the mechanic behind it, but I'm still sitting on my chair.
Yeah.
And with time, I was able to understand it through experience, to see it and feel it, actually. And then from there, I was able to go into it, into a deeper understanding.
Yeah, and there's even studies done about this, right? About the consciousness and how we're all connected. So I also sometimes will visualize it as like a big crystalline grid that's around the Earth. So we have like a torus crystalline grid in one of the higher dimensions, and in that torus, we're all kind of connected to that. So it's kind of like this crystalline grid that we're all connected to through energy lines, right? So energy cords and stuff, we're connected, and we're connected to the Earth in the same way. So if we're all connected, then it kind of works like the movie Avatar. They've got the tree, and the aliens like connect up to the branches of the tree and their braids, and then they all communicate at the same time, kind of like the Borg, it's like in Star Trek, but much nicer, not so like scary. Anyway, so when we all connect up, then we can all share that consciousness, and that's kind of that collective consciousness is what we talk about a lot.
Yes.
And they actually did. They noticed. I shouldn't say it was a study. It was more of an observation that happened. They observed that on one side of the world, monkeys all of a sudden started dipping their sweet potatoes in the ocean and found it tasted better. Well, then they found that monkeys on the other side of the world started doing the same thing shortly after. Well, last time I checked, most monkeys are not on the internet. And I think it was pre-internet anyway when they had this observation. But, you know, it just shows that we're all connected, right?
Yeah.
Because, I mean, they're the closest to humans, I guess, as we can get in this way. So, yeah. So it's a pretty cool observation when you think about that. And, you know.
I know. And the funny part is that while you were speaking, I put a note on my book. I said, talk about monkeys, which is the same.
Same observation.
It's the same thing, is that one side to the other side, they were able to do the same thing without even talking to each other.
Yep.
And also, I think we do see it with humans, although it is very hard to basically pinpoint if where the information is coming from, because now we're all connected with the internet, with the phones and all of that. So it's kind of hard to say, well, it came here from here first before that. But when it comes to monkeys, yes, like you said,
they're not on the internet.
I'm not sure they're logged in yet.
The general population of monkeys is what
Yes.
I'm sure there are the exceptions, so you know, we'll allow for that. But I think, you know, there's also there's also the guides to consider. You know, we all have our spirit guides as well, and so sometimes you'll have them passing you on information that you wouldn't necessarily know, right?
Yeah.
I mean, we've both had that happen lots of times. That's kind of that intuitive piece that happens for us, right? And that has a connection to the vibration as well, right? Because really all of our spirit guides and everything are all around us all the time. But it's not necessarily, you know, we're not tuned into all of those frequencies. It's not within our usual 5 senses. So, you know, our visual range is like this. Well, what happens if we raise our frequency and all of a sudden it's like this, and all of a sudden we're seeing all this other stuff that we didn't see before? So I often use the example of the dog whistle. And right, so the dog whistle, you blow a dog whistle, and we can't hear it with our physical ears because our hearing range is here and the dog whistle is up here, and so we can't like hear it. But does that mean we're not experiencing it? Because it is still a vibration that's in our field.
Yes.
Right. So it is available to us to hear, but it's not in our range. So then the more you can raise your vibration, what I've found to be for me and many of those that I work with, the more they raise their vibration, the more they like open this up, and then all of a sudden they're much closer to this dog whistle, and they start to hear it, you know. And so for me, my journey, that's kind of what happened for me with the guides. You know, I often tell a story about being in a Reiki with crystals class. And this was early, so I wasn't totally tuned in yet. I was kind of aware of guides, but I wasn't particularly clairaudient at the time. And so she's talking away in class, and all of a sudden she stops the class, the teacher, and she looks at me and she goes, "You have a bunch of ascended masters yelling at you all the time. I don't know how you focus on anything. You need to take care of that." And I'm going,
Where?
"Wait, what?" I have what? So apparently she was clairaudient. So she was up, like my hearing was here and hers was like up here. So all she was hearing was these guides talking all the time, trying to get my attention, but I wasn't aware of it. And so for her, it was like, stop talking in class. But so as I found, she talked to me afterwards and she was like, "So do you have anxiety?" I'm like, "Yeah, I always have." And she said, "Do you have trouble focusing?" I'm like, "Yeah." She said, "Yeah, your guides, you need to form a committee because like they're all yelling at you. Like you need to do something about that. That's going to drive you crazy." I'm like, okay. So I formed a committee, and I could not believe the I couldn't believe the difference when I asked. So at the time I was aware of Archangel Michael and Saint Mark. So I'm like, "Archangel Michael and Saint Mark, can you like be my committee and the rest of you go through them?" And I couldn't believe the change in how I felt as soon as I felt that yes. I was like, "Oh." And all of a sudden I didn't have like the, you know, when you ruminate about stuff,
Yeah.
I didn't have that going through my head anymore. And I'm like, oh, interesting. And so I have found that with a lot of people that's kind of what happens. So even though that dog whistle is not in our hearing range, we're still feeling it. We're still experiencing it because it is that energetic frequency that's going on around us. And so we have that a lot in many ways. Have you found that as well?
Well, yes, and I remember the same example you gave me when we started actually working together a year or so ago, and you said form a committee because I told you I can't hear, it's too loud, it's too noisy. Actually, I couldn't understand anything. I still do have a hard time hearing per se, but I realize is that sometimes the hearing doesn't come from the ear itself, but it comes from the throat. It comes through words. It comes through signs. And then I go, yeah, that's it. That's what it is.
We kind of get our confirmation through stuff too, right?
Absolutely. Absolutely. And one other thing is that because some people would kind of get confused to say, raise your vibration. It is a term. It is a term to change the frequency of the vibration. It could be raising or expanding your vibration. One of the things is that as humans, we live on the second floor all the time, which is right over here. And the second floor is really compact and all self in. Okay.
It's the ego aspect of self, right?
Yeah. So we're just sitting there and we have no concept or vision of what is happening around us. We're just stuck in that little house, this beautiful little house that we built over here, and we just stuck in it. But if we bring our awareness down towards the heart's chakra, which we were talking about a few minutes ago, and you expand that, with the expansion, you can start to feel what is happening. With the expansion is, well, basically you expand your awareness, you raise your vibration, it's all part of frequency, and it all meshes up together, and you'll be able to, I'm not going to say that, hey, somebody will come and tap on your shoulder, say, hey, by the way, do this. But
they might.
Well, yeah, I know.
I have had that happen. And sometimes it's whack, do this. All depends.
Yeah, no, sometimes I get screaming, yelling at me, but so how many am I going to tell you? And it comes in different waves. It comes in different forms, and then but you are aware of it because now you move down and you expand it. You raise your vibration, and you're in connection with everything around you. Even plants, they are sitting and doing nothing all day long. Oh my God, they have so much energy, and you can connect with it. Yeah. I actually just got a plant now. I really love green plants everywhere, but with a new place, I didn't have anything. So I got this new plant and I was just watching it every day, analyzing the leaf that is growing in there. And the more I analyzed, the more I gave attention to it. So there's this exchange of energy between myself and that it started to grow faster. I thought it was not gonna grow. I go, oh my God, this like it's a bit cold for it over here. But no, it started growing and getting greener and greener. And it's all with that expansion of my energy into the field of the plant. And we started reciprocating and exchanging.
Yeah. That brings to mind, of course, two different things. One's a personal example. We had a tree in our backyard that was it was kind of diseased, and if it had fallen over, it would have caused a lot of damage. And we're right beside a train track and stuff, and it could have fallen on the train track and stuff, and would have just been bad. Anyway, we had to cut it down, needless to say. All the other trees in my backyard were all very upset. And I didn't even realize it until I was sitting in the living room and they were cutting it down. And all of a sudden I was overwhelmed with sadness. And I'm like, and I start crying and I'm like, I don't even know why I'm crying. Why am I crying? And as I tapped in, I realized it was the other trees that were really upset at losing their buddy. You know, so I was, yeah, they're definitely like, they're beings, all of the plants and trees, and they're all connected as well. And then, the other thing that came to mind is the Masaru Emoto study, the water study.
Oh, yeah. Yes.
Which is also kind of about consciousness and giving energy to something, right? So the Masaru Emoto study was a study by a Japanese scientist who took polluted water from a dam, and half of it he froze, and the other half he took and had it prayed over by monks. So gave it attention, much like you were doing to your plant, right? Giving it positive attention, this water, praying over it. And then he froze that, and then he looked at both samples under a microscope. And he found that the one that was polluted from the dam was like a real globular looking mess. There was no order to it. And the one that had been prayed over, it's the same water. The only difference is that one was prayed over and one wasn't. The prayed over one looked like a beautiful snowflake. The structure was beautiful snowflake. And so it's a pretty cool study if you think about the fact that that is the only difference in this water. That one was prayed over. So that's how strong our intention is. That's how strong, when we say we are intending to be somewhere, it's that strong, right? And I'd like to do a little exercise, actually. If you guys at home want to follow through with this, it's pretty cool. What I want you to do is I want you to take these lines on your wrist. You know the big one that goes across the bottom of your wrist? I want you to take the two of them and match them up as close as you can, okay? Then I want you to put your hands together. And most of us have one hand that's longer than the other, right? It might just be a little bit, but pick the one that's shorter, okay? And I want you to put it out in front of you like this, okay? Now I want you to say 5 times to your hand with intention: grow longer, grow longer, grow longer, grow longer, grow longer.
Grow longer.
Okay. Now I want you to match up those lines again.
It's actually longer.
Yeah. I don't know if you can see the difference in mine, but mine were pretty close to the same. And now the one that I grew longer is actually longer. So that is how this is all energy, right? And I didn't tell anybody what we were doing because we would have gotten in our own way. And that's how strong our consciousness is when we start jumping in. So,
and this is a good example because while you were saying it, we are made up mainly of water.
Exactly.
So our thoughts, which are energetically charged, it's energy. That's what it is. It's energy flowing, unmanifested energy flowing. That's what it is. It's an unmanifested energy flowing. So when you take that thought and charge it even more and more and more, it starts to manifest. If it's on the good side, it manifests within you on the good side. And if it's on the bad side, it starts to create a little havoc within the system because it's not now aligned with the system.
Right. And we get those dense pockets from that, right? Which is what you and I help to clear with people, is to release those dense pockets that get stuck in the body, in the aura, the different layers of the energy system. They get stuck in the chakras. So it can be from anything that is acting on our energy field that we get. So if we take it back to what we were talking about, walking through the dense pocket in the room, we talked about that earlier, right? How there's residual and you walk through dense pocket. So you could get that dense energy stuck in your field and it stays with you. It's the same. Like if we are doing negative self-talk, it can create that dense pocket and get stuck in our field or in our physical body, which creates like dis-ease within the body because it's a lower vibration. And so it also gets in the way of that whole energy system working properly, right? So we know about clogged arteries and stuff in the circulatory system. We can get that sort of thing in our meridians and in our chakras as well.
Absolutely.
And then our energy system is not as healthy as it could have been.
Absolutely. It brings me to, because we were talking back and forth between spirits and the living, the living dead. One of the things is that we talked about intuition. It comes sometimes from our higher selves and our guides and our angels and so on and so forth. How connected are we to them? And it's a kind of tricky question because it's not a
how connected are we? I would say that's a personal thing. I think everybody has their own connection.
Yes,
are you speaking about that, or are you speaking about like the energetic connections in terms of
talking about the energetic connection? And that's why I stopped myself, because what happens is that we have this wall over here. We don't see it, but we have this wall. We say, okay, they are on the other side.
Okay.
But the other side actually doesn't exist because there is no wall, and the other side is this side, and we're all existing in a singular side, if you want to call it.
Mm-hmm.
So energetically, we are actually connected, and we have a direct link, or we are it manifested in an avatar on this plane.
For me, my experience has been that really, when you talk about different dimensional frequencies, so when we talked about the dog whistle, right, and it's there and it was acting on us, but we weren't aware of it.
Yeah.
My experience is that the guides are all around us all the time, but they're in different dimensional frequencies, so they're out of our range. So the more we can widen our range or widen our vibrational awareness or a higher frequency, the more we can start to open up to seeing, hearing, feeling all of the other things that are going on around us. You know, I heard something the other day. It's the same like with space and stuff. So I heard something the other day that, you know, how space looks so bare, right? We've just got stars and the odd planet and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
We were actually able to see the full spectrum of vibrational frequencies, or dimensions, as we often refer to them. Space would be full. There would be no spaces in space.
Yeah.
And I kind of feel that's sort of how it is here too. Right? It's just that we're not fully aware of everything that's happening around us. Now, I don't want everybody to freak out, because nothing's changed. The only thing that's changed is your awareness of what's happening around you. Doesn't mean it's any different than it was before you knew that little tidbit. Okay, so no freaking out. We're just
yeah. And as mentioned before, is that you can always tell them, hey, I need my space.
Yep. That's enough. Off you go. That's enough for today. Yeah.
It's funny because I passed by somebody's house, and I walk in and I go, oh, there's someone here. And I go, it's funny because the light's been flickering. I go, yeah, well, there's somebody here. Mm-hmm. And within 5 minutes, that somebody really wanted to talk.
Yeah.
And messages were coming in, and after a while, that somebody became a more like, he had a lot to ask for forgiveness and release certain things from the past. So, but after a while, it was intruding. So I asked that person, I said, okay, well, fine. The message has been sent. Thank you very much. Now you can go play somewhere else. That's and right. It ended because we have control of everything that happens around us. Because I don't want people to freak out. It's like, oh my God, now there's all these things. Let me check the corner before I go to bed. There's nothing there. There's nothing there. And all you need is a bit of prayer, and you can ask them to stay out of your space when you need that time to be alone and more focused on yourself.
Yeah, exactly. And we're not necessarily meant to see all of that necessarily, right? Depends. If it's part of your journey to see that, like it is for us, that's one thing, but not everybody's meant to take that journey. You know, we're all on our own soul journey here. And so not everybody's meant to see everything. Not everybody's meant to hear everything. You know, we all have the ability if we want it, but it doesn't mean that we're meant to.
Absolutely.
Right. And it's totally like, there's no right or wrong to any of this. This is just like, it's also just you and I and our experience with it, because everybody's experience with these things can be different as well.
Yeah.
It's all about our understanding. And it's a choice. It is. Yeah. Yeah. You have a choice. There is no, we chose to do this work.
Yeah.
you know, I was called. I was called, and I was like, all right. Yeah, exactly.
I tried to say no twice, but it didn't work. Yeah,
Yeah,
sometimes
I
we
had
do.
blocked it out for a number of years. I had a bad experience in my teens, and so I had blocked it out. So I really didn't step into any of this until, you know, about 10 years ago. And it sort of, I guess it came in with ease and grace for me, which is awesome. Like, it was a little bit at a time, and I didn't just all of a sudden start seeing and hearing everything, you know. It was a little bit at a time, and I went, oh, that's interesting. As I started seeing things, because I think I started seeing the dead probably first. But it was in a controlled environment for me. It was like when I was doing my Reiki, right? Because you're channeling all that energy. So you're like, oh, okay. So they started slowly for me, which is good, you know. And you can start in little bits. You just open your awareness a little bit, because we are all energy, and that's what it is. We're just perceiving energy. That's what we do. We perceive energy, whether it's guides, whether it's, you know, pockets of denser energy that's stuck in the air, whether it's pockets of dense energy stuck in our clients or whatever. We're just perceiving that energy. And it's how we perceive it. That's what they talk about being the psychic gifts. Right?
Sorry.
So we'll hear stuff. That's a clairaudience. If we see it, it's clairvoyance. If we hear or we feel it, then it's clairsentience, right? Taste it, it's clairgustance. That's a pretty cool one. Or clairaureliance, when we actually smell it. A lot of people have these, they have instances of this, and they don't realize that it's actually their intuition talking. They're just like, oh, that's weird. I'm smelling cigarettes out of nowhere, or I'm smelling lilacs, you know, out of nowhere. I don't know why. And then they just, oh, well, whatever. But that's actually what it is. Like, it's being aware of those things and just bringing that awareness to it rather than just letting it go by.
Yeah, I had an incident like this many years ago. I was actually I was here in Canada, and I think it was in '92. That's like really long time ago, and I had no idea about these things, to be honest with you. And all of a sudden, I could smell my aunt's food. It was distinct. She was phenomenal. And whatever she made was phenomenal. And I was talking to my cousin. I go, by the way, I don't understand this. I can smell her food today for some reason. She goes, oh, today would be 1 year passing. I go, what?
Yes.
I said, and I got goosebumps, and I said, okay, fine, we have to do a mass. I don't care. I don't know any church over here. I just knew, but we have to do something. And we actually did that. And after that, it stopped. And that was one of my first experiences. I actually forgot about it till now.
Yeah. I mean, I can remember being a teenager, and we'd talk about my grandparents.
Yeah.
And the hair on the back of my neck would go up. And I'd be like, and I remember saying to my mom one time, is it weird that I like think they're here? And she was like, I don't know. So, you know, and then I was, the clairaureliance thing is a different one. I don't have that a lot. So when I had that for the first time, and it was really distinct, I was at a spiritual evening. And all of a sudden, I mean, there was a medium who was talking. Yes, Granny. Sorry. There was a comment. My granny. Yeah. So I was at this spiritual evening, and the medium was talking about this woman's grandmother. And all of a sudden I was smelling lilacs, and I'm like, why am I smelling lilacs? And I'm like, oh, there must be like incense or something around, right? And I get up and I walk around looking at break, looking for this incense. And it was, there wasn't any incense. So I went up to the woman who he was reading and said, like, do lilacs mean anything to you? Because when he was talking about your grandmother, I was smelling lilac. She goes, oh my God, that was her favorite. She loved lilacs. So yeah, that was one of my first ones with that, in that way. So do you want to, there was a couple of questions I think that came in. Do you want to talk about those questions? So there was one Facebook user that asked early on, it does intuition. Yeah, so I think that was around the time we were talking about
spirit guides and angels.
Yeah, so that is kind of what we say is our intuition. We're perceiving that kind of energy, right? And then there was another one about how I discovered my gifts. So that, yeah, so the whole conversation is kind of about that, actually. So we've talked a little bit about all of those things. And then, hi, Margie. Yeah, so my granny used to sit on my bed and knit. And Margie and I were friends in my teens, and so she remembers hearing her knitting needles, even when she wasn't there. And we had the things you do when you're a teenager. We had a seance, which I don't recommend. Just putting it out there. Please don't do this, but we ended up having a seance, and Granny was there, and she kind of stayed with us for a few years after that. So sorry, Gran. But yeah. So yeah, that's pretty cool that she would hear her needles. So yeah. And a big hello to Mel as well, and all the others that are listening tonight. So I just wanted to do a bit of a shout out. I don't know, did you want to take a few questions, see if anybody has any questions?
Sure. If anybody has questions, let's we're open for that.
We're open for questions if you have one. In the meantime, we can just go on about the guides and stuff. So, what's your strongest? I'm going to question you. What's your strongest, Claire? Would you say?
Mine is more on a visual side. What happens is that I see them over here, and I have to like turn around and get the pictures and get different images that pop up and translate them into words and pass them on to the other person. And if I'm really in that space, because if we're doing it fast and I'm like rushing, then I'm half in, half out. But if I'm really in the space and well centered, then words will start flowing along with the images. I don't even have to think about it.
Mm-hmm.
I don't have to think about it. So messages do come, and it depends on what messages. Like sometimes I'll be on a Zoom call, and then there's one person on the call that I've never seen before or heard about or anything, and it just like that image pops, and then all of a sudden,
mm-hmm.
Please pass on this message, and I will have to pass on the message to that person. So it all depends how it is, but yeah, they come over here. It's more visual than it is auditory.
Yeah, it's funny. We were talking about this before the call, actually, how, because I often look over here, and and he's like, "Is someone there?" I'm like, "I don't know. I just kind of always look over there for my spirit guides, and if it's someone's ancestor or something, I'm looking over here, and I don't know why. It's just that's where it feels like they appear for me." So even if I'm not consciously viewing them, it seems to, I hone in on the energy there or something. So I don't know what it is. That's just a quirk, I think, for me. But
I don't know. It's just, if I don't look here, I can't see it, and I'm sure it's all psychological. It was built this way, and I'm sure if I look anywhere, it's going to be there. But I tend to turn my neck and try to pick up images and and messages from my left side.
Well, and your left side is your feminine side, right? So that's very connected to like the intuition. So like if I see people, if I'm looking at you and there's a woman on your left side, it'll be like mother, grandmother, something like that. Oftentimes the men are on the right side, and then that would be father, grandfather, that kind of thing. If you have a man on the right side, then it's, probably an ancestor from your mother's side, right? That kind of thing.
See, it started working this way at the beginning, but then it decided to change. So everything started coming on the left side, and I couldn't figure out, is it mother, father, and stuff like that. And then another sign started coming in. I got a twitch. If I got a twitch on the eye on the right side, then this is it. And if it's on the left side, it's something else. And it interchanged depending on the situation. So it's to be in tune with yourself to see how messages or little vibrational changes that happen around that gives you the answer to the question that you're looking for.
Well, and that's a good point, because a lot of times we're really not in tune with our bodies.
Yes.
Right? So I know you and I are both like physical empaths, which means that we pick up on the energy and we're sensitive to not only the emotional aspect of people, or it's clairsentience is another word for it. But we're not just empaths are tied in, like they feel other people's emotions, right?
Yeah.
The physical empath or the clairsentient feels emotions, but they also feel all this sensation around them, right? So, I'll feel like a temperature change here when there's an angel standing beside me, right? And then other times there's somebody else here, and it's often warm here because they're more ascended masters. So, we do have a question, I believe.
I feel my younger brother is very soul on the.
Yeah, I feel my young. So I'll read it out because not everybody's going to see this depending on the platform they're on. I feel my young brother, peace on his great soul, on the left-hand side of my shoulders, Tanys and Ramsey. So the left-hand side. So that would be, so my question would be, was he a very feminine soul? Because when we talk about feminine and masculine side, it's feminine, masculine energy. It's not always like the actual physical gender. It could be the energy. So we all have female and male energy within us. And it's like it's charged to a specific frequency when it's male, a specific frequency when it's female. And so I would ask, if you're a younger brother, how young was he when he passed, first of all? And then the second question I would ask would be, was he a very like sort of creative, giving kind of, very feminine in his energy? Say the feminine energy is, Ramsey. How would you describe it?
A feminine energy, more of a creative one. And yes, if you feel it on the left side, it is him. I feel it on the left side. I feel the same sensation right now, and it's somewhere over here and over here. So if you have doubts, don't.
Yeah, know that you're.
It is what it is.
Yeah.
Yeah. And yes, it is more of a creative. I feel clear. Sorry.
I don't feel like he was very old when he passed.
No, it's I feel white energy, white flowing.
Oh, okay. Here's our response here. He was a high priest. He gave his best of himself. He passed away and accomplished his mission on earth. Beautiful. Okay. So yeah, so very much that sort of giving feminine energy. He was probably quite balanced in his energy. And so yeah, I it is him for sure. Yeah. He had a very young because I actually felt from his energy that he had passed away early in his lifetime. So if he was a high priest, he likely was a little bit older than what I was feeling. So he must have had a playful side.
I felt it younger also.
Okay.
And the white sheets, I'm trying to figure out what would they be, but it just, yeah, it gives me an image of a playfulness, when you would just put the clothes outside in the old days, and then we'll hide behind them and run around. That's the feeling that I got on the character of the person.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. We have a comment from Jen. Actually, Jennifer works with me. And she says, you guys are wonderful. Our brains always want to try to understand by categorizing. So, of course, it does the same thing with stuff beyond what it can comprehend. So we each categorize in our own way, which happens to sometimes alight with others. If it doesn't, however, it doesn't mean it isn't right. That's correct, right? We're all different in how we perceive these things. And so the response we're getting, he left on New Year's Eve on December 31st. They were the victim of a terrorist attack in a nightclub in Turkey. Yes, he was very playful. He wanted to make everyone happy around him.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's the energy that I felt.
Mm-hmm. Sending you lots of love and light. Really sorry for your loss. But know that he's good. He still feels playful. That's why I felt he was young. So just know that he's good. He's good. He's okay. All right. Sending you lots of love and light. I know loss can be difficult. So. Mm-hmm. Cool. So yeah. So everybody's journey is different. We're all here for our own mission. When you think about our example here, she says he accomplished his mission here. We're all here for our own missions, and we sign up for these before we come down. We have soul contracts, and we're like, yeah, okay, we're gonna meet when we're 4, and we're gonna learn how to share, and then we're gonna meet when we're like this age, and we're gonna get married and have a child, and we're gonna learn what that's like, because we're here for learning, really, right? That's the biggest piece. So
learning, awakening.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, thank you. We have an amazing chat. Oh, but I know he is a good place, but it's hard for us. It's always hard for the physical body to accept the loss, okay? Because that connection, we miss that connection with the other person. But since you feel the presence on the left side, cherish that and hold it with you to the end, because he's there, kind of putting an arm around your shoulders and telling you, I'm here, everything's going to be okay.
Yeah. And it's funny because they sorry, I have some messages coming in here.
Yeah, go ahead.
I'm very distracted. It's not from him. It's for somebody else. There's somebody else that lost a mother or a grandmother recently that's watching. You need to know she's good too. There was some kind of, it was kind of sudden. Like, I feel like there was a heart attack or something that happened. I'm getting like a chest thing, heart attack or breathing issues. But I think that, there's a lot of sadness around it all. You just need to know she's okay. And you do feel her. Whoever this is, you do feel her. It is her. So just know that it is her. Okay. So that's just it's a grandmother. I actually feel like it's fairly recent, like in the last month or so. So, again, my condolences and my heart goes out to you. Mm-hmm. Yeah, just know that they're always, we talk about past lives and all of that stuff as well. There's that aspect too, right? And I think that people often wonder, a big question that I often get is, if they're here, how can they be there in another body? And that kind of comes back to what we were saying, how we can be in different dimensional frequencies at once. And we have that higher self aspect of us, which is that spiritual self, right? And so my feeling on it is that spiritual self, it doesn't matter which body we're in, it's there and it's omnipresent. It can go wherever with the intention. And so that's what comes to see us, right? So don't think that if they're coming to see us that they haven't crossed over, because that's not the case. Oftentimes they've crossed over. I don't know whether your experience is the same, Ramsey, but for me, when I have one that's a ghost, for instance, that hasn't quite gone over yet, they're kind of delayed. They appear a little bit more physical. They're not physical like us, but they appear a little bit more dense. And then when it's just their higher self that comes over, it's much more light body kind of that I see, not so much in the physical features. It's more like a light body. Sometimes they'll show me a feature or something, but they show us what we want, what we need to see in order to pass on the message.
Absolutely.
So, yeah. So don't feel that if they're talking to a medium that they haven't crossed over or they're not where they're supposed to be, because they are. It's just that we're omnipresent, or that after we pass, we're omnipresent.
It's like I had a lady in Europe, and her sister came twice to say, keep the ring, hold it for my daughter. And she was holding her wedding band after she passed, and she was waiting for her niece to be of age to give it to her. Sister came twice to tell her, hey, you're doing the right thing. She was worried because she actually not stole it, but she took it.
Mm-hmm.
But she took it with the intention, and her sister came to tell her, no worry, keep it on you and then pass it on. But the sister had already crossed to the other side. And sometimes, like you said, you get someone that is still here and they still have something to do, like what I was talking about at the beginning. That person, he needed to apologize. He needed to make amends with things that happened in the past. So after that, it took 2 days, and then they crossed over. It was an easy crossing afterwards once the messages were out, and the vibrational frequency between the father and the children kind of resonated, and then it was easy for the father to cross over.
Mm-hmm. That's the other thing, people think if you have a poor relationship with somebody and, here they were mean when they were here, and then they come to us and they're like, just tell them I'm sorry. I've had people say, why would he even think that I would be okay with that? What, he was a mean so-and-so when he was here. Why is he apologizing? I don't really, they almost don't believe you, but when you cross over, you shed all of that, because that's very ego brain based, right? That's not soul based. And the soul is very light. And so when we cross over, we really shed all of that sort of anger and frustration. They're too dense. We can't take them with us. So, oftentimes you'll have us saying they just want you to know they're really sorry and that it's not, they're okay and all of that stuff. And that's why, because they really don't take that density with them. They don't take resentment. They don't take anger. They don't take fear, which is what a lot of that's based on. And so trust your guidance when you get that, because it is that they've let go of it.
Yeah.
Right? And oftentimes they're back to encourage you to do the same because it didn't serve them. So
we have another question. How do we know when we are on the right track to complete our mission? It's a very interesting question, actually. It's very deep. But from my perspective is that your mission is what you like to do. There's nothing more than that.
Mm-hmm.
There's no bells and whistle that comes with it. And one analogy I heard on YouTube the other day, which was interesting, is that the cells of the body, if they all want to be the heart, you won't make a body. So we all have our own mission based on what we want to do,
Mm-hmm.
not what society is pushing us to do. If you like, for example, painting, and we have a person at work who's a project manager, and he likes painting. So his mission is to do painting and bring joy to other people through his work. And he does it on the side. But other people take it into a Michelangelo type and they go 100% fledged into it. So there's no preset missions, and whatever you like and whatever is flowing, I believe you're on the right track. Tanys?
Yeah, I agree. You know, when there's resistance, you feel it. You know, if you think, even just feel into your body. Okay. So those of you that are watching, if you want to try this, try this. Okay. I want you to go to your happy place. Okay. Close your eyes. I want you to take 3 deep breaths. And I want you to go to your happy place. Go to that place that makes you totally relaxed. Okay. Then I want you to think of the job that you really disliked that you've had. Okay. I want you to think about that. And I want you to feel your body. Okay. Just think about how that feels. And like Renata is saying, so I actually work with Renata as well. Thanks for coming, Renata. Often it's heaviness. We feel heavy in our body, or we'll feel tension in our muscles. That's the other thing, right? Now I want you to take 3 big deep breaths, go back to your happy place. And I want you to think about what you think is your dream job. Picture yourself there. Picture yourself doing your dream job or your dream, whatever, whether it's a hobby or whatever. Now I want you to feel your body. What does that feel like for you? You'll likely notice that things are much more relaxed. They stay in that relaxed state and you don't get that like you did with something that you hate. So this feels heavy. When it's something that you love, your muscles relax and it feels lighter. And so that's it. If I had to break it down to something very practical, Lindy, that's what I would say. If you think about where you're at right now, what does your body feel? Mm-hmm. Are you feeling happy and light and relaxed, or are you feeling tense? If you've got tension, then something is not quite aligned in your life. There's something going on that's not quite right. Okay. And that's where, Ramsey and we kind of, I was going to say play with our clients. We sometimes it's playful. We work with our clients to figure out, what area of your life is it, and we kind of feel into that and ask questions and stuff. That's kind of the coaching part that we do to help you figure that out. So I hope that's helpful. That was kind of how we see it, or how I see it, how you see it.
Yeah, actually, somebody said it's very helpful.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, resistance is different from heaviness. Yeah, resistance, heavy feels almost sad. Resistance is not always a bad thing, right? Resistance can be, I'm a little bit fearful because it's new. It's not necessarily that it's a bad thing, right? And that's where feeling into it, and what would it feel like if? What would it feel like if? And which one feels better to you? Okay.
Yeah, it reminded me when, because I do coach people even at work, and a buddy of mine got a new job and he was worried about it. And I'm like, oh my God, I can't do anything. So I had to recenter him. Mm-hmm. Recenter him because the resistance was killing him, not the heaviness. He thought it was heaviness, but it was actually resistance to something new, to the exposure that he's going to have. Mm-hmm. And couple of lunches together, and he went from an IT person to a director of IT, employee to a director. So sometimes we think it's heaviness, but we really have to analyze what's in there and what's behind that feeling that we have. Mm-hmm. Thank you. That answered my question. I feel like I'm at a crossroad.
Okay. So yeah, Lindy, I would do that feeling into it, and if you need help, we're here. if you need it. You can contact us at our various pages. So Ramsey's at ramseycheetah.net, and I am at twilalifestyle.ca. And yeah, so we're happy to help if you're looking for that as well. Yeah, it's because we do fear change, right? Change is not easy for us. We don't like it. And that's part of what's happening in terms of a lot of this stuff that's happened in the last few years. There's a lot of change, right? Yeah. So I think that's a big part of it. Yes. So Renata's saying, I think it matters what the resistance is being felt towards as well. If it's resistance to the world, that's one thing. If it's resistance to maybe taking a leap that you need to take in order to level up, that's something else, right? That's kind of what we were talking about in terms of, is it fear for the unknown because leveling up is like an unknown, or is it, because you're not going to be happy with that decision? So that takes a little bit of discernment on your part, and that's where you can go into that heart space and ask the guides, and then be quiet and listen. That's the other thing.
Quiet is the key.
Yes.
Is the key.
As if not, they yell at you.
Because we always get in our way. Our thinking mind is a blessing and a curse at the same time. Mm-hmm. We need to use it wisely and have it quiet time for infomercial from the other side. Yes, we distract ourselves with so much, basically, it's all day long. Yep. Yeah, absolutely.
That's part of why we keep ourselves so busy sometimes, because we don't want to listen. So how do we not listen to something that's always there? We just keep busy.
Yeah.
And that's some of the good stuff that came out of the pandemic, actually, because everybody slowed down at first and it forced us to listen to ourselves, right? Yeah. What do we need? And I did a video not long ago, like, what does your soul need? Ask yourself, what does your soul need? Yeah, we're pretty good at listening to like our tummies growling, or, we're too hot, so we take our sweater off, or we're those kinds of things. But what does the soul need? What do you need to feel good? That's not something that we're really used to answering.
No, not at all. Not at all.
But very important.
Even with my job, I was on from one plane to another, globetrotting and just running. It was constant rat race. Mm-hmm. And then COVID came. Mm-hmm. And everything came to a screeching halt. I'll tell you exactly where I was. November, I was in China. February, I was in Australia. March, I was in Florida. It was like bang, bang, bang. And I almost missed the airport to come back home because I would have been stuck in the US for almost a year. Wow. So it's like running. And all of a sudden you hit a wall. Kaboom. And it's like, what just happened? Exactly. What do I do now? Okay, there's so much food I want to eat. I don't want to eat.
Exactly. We could eat. I mean, we're good at that. We know how to do this. We don't know how to be quiet and be introspective, and that's not something we're used to. We're used to go. What is this? I know how to eat. I'm good. So that's something that we all had to kind of get used to with that change. Yeah. And part of the change too is the increase in vibration of the earth, right? So it's changing our frequency. We're actually like raising our frequency in our consciousness, and the consciousness dimension. Like we're switching from 3 to 4 to 5th dimensional consciousness at this time. That's going into this age of Aquarius. That was sort of that trigger point that we had, right? And so it's a big change for all of us to change how we think about things.
Oh yeah, it's big. Mm-hmm. Like I always say, I must have read it somewhere. We all love change, but no one loves to change.
Yeah, we like innovation. I'm not sure we like change. I think that we like innovation, right?
We don't like change. We continue doing the same thing over and over again because it's easy.
That's right.
And it becomes automatic and autopilot. Mm-hmm. So it's the time to actually sit down, recenter, move down from the second floor to the lower floor, occupy your body, feel it, expand it, feel what's happening around. Because once you expand, you're actually in connection with other humans that are around that you never knew that they existed. It's funny. Try it.
It is. Indeed.
It is, and then compassion and understanding starts to kick in.
Talk about resistance, especially in the US. People are terrified of change. Yeah, I think it's all over the world, Renata, not just in the US. I mean, we have that here. I think that's a global. It's a human race thing. We're, I think we're really quite stuck in our ways. There may be some countries or some cultures that are a little bit more resilient.
Yeah.
When it comes to change, but everybody can be change fatigued. So. Thank you for coming.
Thank you. Yeah.
Yeah. So I think that's kind of, sorry, we had a comment thanking us. Should be clear what I'm saying. Yeah. And, we talk about getting messages and stuff. There's also that channeling thing. That's the other thing that's kind of interesting, right? When we talk about that. So there's different kinds of channeling, of course. And, maybe that's not for tonight to talk about, but it appears there might be interest in a further discussion around this kind of stuff. That's certainly.
Yeah, I think we'll move it also to it's a 4-part series, everyone. So this is part 2. Part 3, we were talking about imagination and what does it do to imagination is actually the bridge between the manifested and unmanifested, and through imagination we can bring in the discussion on channeling, and that will be next week's episode at 7:30 on Thursday. Please join us because it's actually very interesting to have these topics out there and have them in a more basically a social setting type of environment, so that there's ease of information that flows to everyone, and of course everyone can have the chance to ask questions.
And for us, this is, all of this is just our experience with it. There is no right or wrong in this. If your experience is different, it doesn't make it wrong. It's just different. We're all different. Yeah. We all get our messaging different. We all experience that kind of interaction differently, just like all of our lives are different. And so we just need to be open and understanding, and understand that others have different experiences along the way, and it creates different environments. But we are all connected.
Oh, yeah.
So, love and unity to all in these times.
All right. If nobody has any other question, I think we can wrap it up tonight. Tanys, you've been awesome.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for joining me. And we'll be together next week also. So it's not going to be me alone. I like this more, like I said, the social setting brings out the messages easier and a more informal way for everyone to listen to. And on that note, if you have a last word before we close our night.
Just, treat each other with kindness and compassion in these days, and just understand everybody's in a different place, and that's okay. We're meant to be. So sending everyone lots of love and light. Thank you all for joining us tonight and sharing our energy and sharing your energy with us.
Love and light to everyone. Thank you.
Thank you.